Hey, welcome back to my channel. Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and I love roller coasters. I love theme parks. I think they're so much fun. My favorite kind of roller coaster is an inverted coaster. I loved Batman when I first rode it back in the day at Magic Mountain, Six Flags in California, and I love inverted coasters. They are my favorite kind of roller coaster. But more than any roller coaster, I love dark rides. I think dark rides are so much fun. You know, the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, you have Blazing Fury at Dollywood. Shout out to the Tennessee theme park. There's so many fun theme parks out there and so many fun dark rides. And that's why I absolutely loved reading Monsterious, Escape from Grimstone Manor by McMann, because this book is like a theme park in a book. The kids that are the main characters of this book, Zari, Mateo, and Taylor, they are at a theme park and they go to this ride that is like the dark ride, that's the Haunted Mansion kind of ride. So this one is called Grimstone Manor. And so you're riding in this little thing, going through into the manor, and there's all the creepy different scenes. And the first 3 chapters of this book were pretty much just describing their adventure on the ride and what the ride is like. And I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. It instantly took me back to any of those times when I've been at a theme park myself, riding on these rides. I loved it. And so we have these 3 characters. Okay, let me calm down for my roller coaster and theme park hype. But we have these 3 characters, Zari, Mateo, and Taylor. And they have actually snuck out. They told their parents that they were staying at Taylor's house, but Taylor's parents are actually gone. So the 3 of them went to this local theme park where they are spending the day. And their last ride of the day, as before the park closes, is Grimstone Manor, which the legend says the Grimstone ride was built on top of an old mansion owned by someone named Hezekiah Crawley. And Hezekiah Crawley, according to legend, was a necromancer. So he tried to raise the dead and do things with dead people. And the legend says he was trying to raise an army to take over the world, you know, as the villains in most middle grade fiction like to do. So in this book, the 3 of them are on this ride, and they're talking about the legend. Mateo's kind of scared. Zari's like, I don't know what I think about this. It's kind of fun. Taylor's having a blast. And then the ride breaks down. They are the last literal ride of the night, and as soon they find themselves trapped inside the ride, but not everything is an animatronic. Because at nighttime, there's something else lurking in Grimstone Manor. Oh, this book was so much fun. I pretty much read this straight through. I sat down, I read through the whole thing. I will say it's a pretty easy read. You have not a lot of text on a page, but the ride was so much fun. I didn't even mean to say that. Y'all are probably going to think that's a pun. But this book was literally so much fun to read. It was like a non-stop theme park ride. That is just the best way to describe it. There are plenty of monsters, plenty of scares. There's a great mystery. I will say I guessed part of it pretty quickly. As soon as he mentions a detail about one of the monsters, I thought, oh, I think I know what's going on here, and I think I know how we're going to stop all these villains. But what I did not expect was some of the twists near the end. I thought that there were some really great twist pieces of some of the final action scenes, and I will say there is a lot of action in this book. I think that Matt McMann really has nailed down the art of writing an action scene, and for a minute halfway through, I was a little concerned that it would be a lot of running around, doing the same old things. And there is a little bit of running around, but in this case, the running around had a point that came up later on in the book. And so when that happened, I was able to excuse the running around completely and say, okay, I get what you're doing. That makes sense. You had to do that to make this happen, so it all comes together. And I like that when an author brings things together. Sometimes I think running around in books, especially for middle grade, happens because the author is just trying to fill a page count or trying to get to a certain amount of words, and it just doesn't have enough material in the actual story to make it there. Well, there is in this story enough material to make it there, and it does. And so, one of the interesting things I want to talk about are the characters. So, this cast of characters, there's three of them. And I have been reading a lot of Goosebumps, Shivers, kind of some of those 90s style horror kids books. And one of the things I have noticed is that when there are more than two characters, it gets really difficult to follow along with who is who, what is what. And I think part of that, this is what I'm discovering. I'm having some epiphanies about these style of books. One of the things I've been thinking about is I really do believe it works best when you have two main characters. Sometimes a boy and a girl, I think actually works the best. But if you have those two main characters that can have some banter, they can like kind of go back and forth a little bit. That's a very 90s style. But I will say, I think this book took it to 2023. And this book brought it up to speed. This book came out in 2023, even though this review comes out in 2024. But so this book brought it up to 2023, in my opinion, where you have these three main characters. And what is different here is these characters are distinct. Now, one of the traps I think that can happen in middle grade books is characters can be defined by a personality trait, like they're a photographer, so they love photography. And that's kind of all there is to the character. It's just all about the photography, and that comes into play in the plot. But that's like their character trait is photography or some hobby that they have, like writer or reporter, etc. But in this book, Matt McMann really fleshes out these characters and makes them into people that I believed and was like, yes, these are real kids in a real situation. And they do have some dominant personality traits that come through. Like, for instance, Zari is smart and she's kind of like thinks things through and kind of tries to be logical about stuff. But that is fleshed out with the rest of her character development. It's not that she's just the smart girl. She is more than that. So I liked that a lot. There's a lot more to her character. Same with Mateo and Taylor. Taylor could be seen as like the character who's just, you know, kind of runs into danger and is just, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway. But there are pieces to Taylor's character that come out later that you think, oh, okay, this is more well-balanced than it appears at the beginning. Same again with Mateo, the same thing. So Matt McMann does a good job with his characters. I wouldn't say that they necessarily go through giant character arcs. Probably the biggest arc is for Mateo here. He has the most of a character arc out of all of them, but they do get fleshed out. Now, there is an ending here that's very interesting that once again, I am at a place where I am torn between reading a series like Monsterious and wanting it to have a continuing story, and that is my fantasy background coming through because I love a good fantasy story that continues over 5 books, you know. But there's also, I do love the anthology piece as well because it makes these kinds of books easier just to pick up. You don't have to remember any details from previous books. You can just go into the next one and think, okay, great, here's the next one. And I can jump around even. It doesn't matter about reading them in order like it does in a fantasy series. However, I want this series to be connected. I have not read the next book yet. I don't have it yet, and I don't read back matter because on these kinds of books usually because I just don't want to know what happens. So I haven't looked at the next book yet. And there are some pieces left at the end of this book that could lead into a wider storyline that could go farther than just this first book. And I think that would be really smart to do. I don't know if Matt McMann is going to do that or not, because like I said, I haven't read the other book. There are actually 4 of these so far, and I really want to read the next one because of how much fun I had reading this first book. So, all said, at the end of the day, this was a great book. In fact, I would give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I think it was a lot of fun. It had great characters, great action set pieces, and some really creepy atmosphere that was just so much fun. Especially if you are a fan of rides like the Haunted Mansion at, Disneyland or Disney World, this is the kind of ride for you. This book is a ride. So, or if you like any of those, really old school, like those really old carnival kind of rides on a haunted mansion or a haunted castle, any of those kinds of things, this is a book for you because there's lots of fun, great moments. I wouldn't say it was necessarily scary, but there definitely are some fun horror creatures and monsters that you will just love if you are a fan of any of those kinds of things. So, check out this book, Monsterious, book number 1, Escape from Grimstone Manor by Matt McMann. You will not be disappointed. Especially if you're a fan of old school like Goosebumps and stuff, this is a great addition to your collection, I would say. So check out this book. Have you read this series at all? Put it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep reading. Bye!